Hello everybody, and welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. It's Corey, and listen man, I was supposed to do this a lot earlier. I was supposed to get the predicted 11 out and the tactical breakdown out. I haven't done. It is massively frustrating, but nonetheless, thank you so much for joining me. We're going to jump straight into things today, obviously with a predicted 11 for Aston Villa and West Ham United. It's a really tough game tonight. It's going to be a high energy, high pressing game. Aston Villa have changed their formation throughout the season, going from the 4-3-3 to the 4-2-3-1. It does mean that they can sit back a little bit in the low block. They've got a bit of protection and they can push their fullbacks on. But equally, it does mean that midfield can be exploited at times. So I am interested to see it. I do think West Ham can go out there and we can compete in midfield. But we can't play like we did against Liverpool. I understand playing a low block against Liverpool. I understand the methods and the ways that they can try and break West Ham down. But ultimately, you'd look at it and think, we have to go and push up as a side. There are spaces in there, force Villa back into their defensive shape, and we can exploit the width that they inevitably leave. So again, they are a good team. I understand why they've got so much praise from this season, but I just think West Ham can go and hit them. Yes, hello Sydney, good to see you, mate. Holly Salami, yes, mate. Everyone drop a like on the stream as well before we get started into things. I wouldn't normally do this, but having been terrible with my timekeeping and organisation, I've nonetheless had to do so. So let's jump straight into the predicted 11 for Aston Villa this evening. I believe Martinez is going to be in goal. Fantastic keeper. Someone that I think West Ham definitely should have gone for in the summer. I thought he's brilliant against Southampton as well. His shot stopping is brilliant. His ability to command the box, his relationship with his defenders, he's so important to the way Aston Villa play. And probably something that doesn't get cited enough is his composure and his calmness in terms of that goal. It has helped Villa out massively, particularly with the high line that they play and how much they look to concede possession. How are we doing today? I'm good, mate. Not bad. I need to stop looking at the comments. Let's just get straight into it. So yeah, I expect Martinez to start in goal. He's definitely going to make it difficult for West Ham to get in behind. We have to commit men forward, particularly, and try and break Villa's back line at times. And we've got to test Martinez. He's a good keeper. I expect us to test him. So let's see how we do. Right back will be Matty Cash. He's been fantastic for them, actually, not only defensively, and I think he can get into that low block fairly quickly, but equally going forward. And you see it in a number of times this season. Matty Cash will push on. He'll create the overlapping run. He can create an inverted run as well. He'll get deliveries into the box. He'll allow Bertrand Traore, particularly on that right-hand side, to naturally cut in on his left. He does offer the width, but he can make that additional run into the box and make it difficult for West Ham. You look tonight, we're going to be playing with Aaron Creswell and the double pivot. They're going to be under so much pressure at times, and I will touch on West Ham's tactical breakdown and in terms of how we need to use the likes of Fornals and Bowen to protect our right back and left back and keep them in that natural shape. Because if they get pushed out of possession and Villa break our defensive line, then they're going to start introducing Barkley and Watkins into the mix. And it's something that we cannot afford to do. We have to be massively disciplined. But he's a good player. His tendency naturally to push on, particularly when they get in possession and when they are in the final third, does mean that there is a weak spot down that left-hand side. I want West Ham to exploit it a little bit. I'm not sure we'll be able to with Fornals. We'll have to push up Creswell. We'll have to take that risk in this game. And I believe there will be the width there. And you look at Mickey Antonio, particularly with that tendency to come off to the left-hand side, the pace that he has transitioning from deep. Again, that's another avenue that West Ham can look to break Aston Villa when they get out of possession. Right-hand side of the centre-backs will be Ezri Konsa. Again, good player, fantastic in the air, real threat from set pieces, as is him and Tyrone Mings. They're very, very competent. They do play the high line, and I will go on to suggest how Dean Smith has managed to advocate for that and use a pivot in Douglas Luiz to protect them, because ultimately he does know playing the high line will leave risks. Konsa's good in the air. Defensively, he's quite quick as well, so he can make those recovery runs, as is Tyrone Mings. So I guess Dean Smith does have the personnel to play that high line that he favours so much. Again, it is an area that West Ham can look to exploit. They will split the centre-backs, particularly when playing out from the back and trying to get onto the ball. So West Ham needs to look out for that. If you do want to press Villa high, there is an opportunity for them to make mistakes and West Ham to capitalise on them. So that will be interesting. I'm not sure we'll press up that high to do so, but nonetheless, it is an avenue. Left-hand side of the centre-back pairing, Tyrone Mings, he's come back into the side. I believe they was playing Courtney Hawes there for quite a while. But Tyrone Mings is a fantastic defender. Good in the air, good defensively, likes to step out with the ball. It does leave a weakness possibly down that left-hand side if he does get caught. He's got fantastic pace, physically very, very good. He's a player that, again, he's the reason why they can play that high line. He was a left-back. He has been a left-back previously, and he's obviously adopted to that centre-back role over the past couple of years. And again, I would like Mikel Antonio to try and put these two under a bit of pressure. I think it'll be an interesting battle between Antonio and these two centre-backs, particularly in open play and in transition. They're going to have to try and keep up with them. So I will keep my eye on it, and it will be something that West Ham fans will be hoping we try and get in behind a bit more. Matt Targett on the left-hand side isn't as offensive-minded as Matty Cash. And it's interesting because the way Villa are so left-side dominant with Jack Grealish and Ross Barkley at times means that somebody like a Targett doesn't really advance too far forward. His delivery generally is good. I think defensively he's better than Matty Cash. He will go out to press the ball. I think 1-to-1 he's also better than Matty Cash. So from a defensive aspect, he is a good player. In terms of him being involved in the attacking play, I can't see it too much. He's not going to create the overlapping runs. It'll be Grealish that will try and move to the byline, particularly if he's going to be on that left-hand side and Barkley's going to play in that 10 role. So keep an eye out for that. I suppose defensively, he isn't going to get caught as much. He'll tuck in with the two centre-backs to create a back three. They'll have natural protection as well from Douglas Luiz. So it isn't somewhere that I think West Ham are going to be able to get too much joy down that right-hand side. And naturally, you would think with Jarrod Bowen that you could go and try and exploit it. It's going to be a little bit tough. But like I said, Jack Grealish doesn't have the best work rate defensively. He will track back. He's got a free role in this side. But you think that if West Ham can push up down that right, push Soufal forward and create an overlapping run, then naturally you can break apart that defensive structure. Now to the midfield of Villa. Really impressed with this as a neutral in this perspective. So where they played in the beginning of the season, they played the 4-3-3. So you had Douglas Luiz, and then they would push on the likes of McGinn, and they had Conor Hourihane in there at times, and Bertrand Traore playing in an 8 role. They've changed that slightly now to give them a little bit more protection in terms of that defensive high line. Now, first and foremost, let's touch on Douglas Luiz, who is a fantastic player in general. Really, really good passing range, athletic, will go to press on. His defensive attributes as well in terms of tucking in with that back four at times, particularly in that low block, is superb. He runs the show from a defensive midfield perspective, but of course, naturally, he does have help from the likes of John McGinn, whose work does go unnoticed. And I know people see him as a bit of a workhorse. He is good technically as well, not as much so as Douglas Luiz, but certainly it will provide a little bit of protection with him. I expect Douglas Luiz to push up though, and I think it's easy to get pulled into this idea that a 4-2-3-1 with a pivot is mean that he's going to sit deeper. Douglas Luiz will join the attack if he can. He's got a lot of athleticism. He will make those runs and he will try and force West Ham out of position. So keep your eyes on that. Now McGinn, for me, is probably the more impressive player off the ball. The work rate that he does defensively, both of them, to be fair, will tuck into that back four to create almost a back six low block at times and allow the two wide attacking midfielders to tuck in and protect in the central areas. But going forward, I think McGinn offers another run. He'll try and keep the press on West Ham. It'll make it difficult for West Ham to get out of our defensive shape at times, which will be massively frustrating. He's fantastic and he's tenacious at winning the ball. I think that battle between him, Declan Rice, Souček, is going to be interesting. I would like West Ham particularly to progress our pivots in this game and try and go out to meet someone like McGinn and win the ball. Equally, you do worry that Ollie Watkins can drop into deep areas. Barkley will play in that 10 role. So it will be a battle. I do think West Ham can win it, but we just have to be very, very aggressive in this game when we don't have the ball. Let's get on to the attacking midfielders. They are an absolute nightmare. Honestly, they are really, really irritating. Just checking out the comments there. Thank you all. Make sure you drop a like on the stream as well. The attacking midfield for Villa has improved in a 4-2-3-1. There isn't as much width there. They'll try and push on the fullbacks to create the width, and they'll create overloads in central areas. How they do this is through one key man that gets almost free rein in this side. Is Jack Grealish. Now, I know we all don't like him, and I know he's incredibly irritating, and he does draw a hell of a lot of fouls that he probably doesn't deserve. But he is a phenomenal football player. And what he poses to West Ham in terms of a threat is multi-talented. He can get to the byline. He can try and push Soufal out of position. He can come in central and he can get onto his right-hand side and try and link up with Ross Barkley. Jack Grealish is multifaceted in terms of how he can attack us. The problem you've got with somebody like him in a Dean Smith side is he has free rein. He doesn't have too much defensive responsibility. He can pick the ball up from deep and keep possession. He's got that fluidity of positioning where Villa don't need to necessarily lose the ball or press us aside. He can keep the ball off them. In a low block and when they're trying to transition, he can keep the pressure off them by keeping hold of the ball. When they're pressing on West Ham, he'll get to the byline. So this guy is an absolute nightmare. Now, ultimately, you need somebody like a Jarrod Bowen to push on him, to press him back into deep areas where he can't affect the game. Last time when he hurt us quite a lot, he was able to drift into that 10 role, pick up a space and get a shot on target and score. We can't afford to give this guy too much space. We have to force him back into his own half. We have to force Villa in general back into their own defensive shape. And West Ham can start to dominate the ball a little bit more. But he is a nightmare. He is a massive threat. And we just need to force him into those deep areas where he can't hurt us as much. And again, like I've said, fantastic technically, can get goals, good delivery, good from set pieces as well. He's a fantastic player. I hate to say it. Now, number 10. Ross Barkley. Now, Ross Barkley, it's interesting. Last time we played them, you had Grealish in the 10 role, or at least coming off that left-hand side and coming into those central areas. And Villa will create, overloads in central areas. But Barkley in that 10 role has a lot of fluidity. He has a lot of freedom. And this is what I'm interested to see with Dean Smith in a 4-2-3-1. Yes, he's given a bit more protection in having Louise as a pivot in there. You've got McGinn as well, his work rate to get back. Very, very similar to Declan Rice and Souček in that sense. But Barkley's going to have so much freedom in order to go and pick the ball up, play between the lines, force West Ham out of position. He'll have Ollie Watkins as well that will drop a bit deeper. So it does mean that Villa can maintain possession and maintain the press in order to start to introduce their fullbacks and then break the line and then create the overloads in the middle of the box and pull West Ham out of position. From distance, he's got fantastic striking. He's got brilliant link up with Jack Grealish, which is an absolute nightmare. And you can see both of them have got that tendency to play off the left-hand side. You'd worry that particularly if Rice doesn't pick up a Barkley or he's given too much freedom and we can see way too much possession, that he can link up with somebody like a Jack Grealish. If you look at the game earlier in the season, Aston Villa versus Arsenal let off Aston Villa. They let them have the ball. And what you saw was them pushing their fullbacks high, getting in beyond, getting to the byline, stretching them, and then finding space in the box. And I don't think as good as defensively West Ham have been, in that back four, we've improved. I think we've learned how to press off and allow teams to have the ball and not get caught in behind. You can't afford to do that for the full 90 minutes. And I don't think we will. I think we'll be aggressive, we'll be intense, we'll try and win the ball a lot more in this game. But it is problematic. And we have to be very much aware of somebody like a Barkley being able to pull the strings, inviting someone like an Ollie Watkins who has got good movement in behind, and someone like a Grealish who will get to the byline. Now, right-hand side, even more problematic is Bertrand Traore. Now, I wasn't sure quite where he fitted into this Villa side when they brought him in. Obviously, he naturally plays as a striker, then he plays off the right, and he did play in a number 8 role for a while, but now he's kind of playing in that inverted right-hand side role with Matty Cash. Now, Matty Cash will offer another option down that right, and it does allow Bertrand Traore to naturally get on his left foot. If you watch any clip of Aston Villa, he almost acts as a second striker because he has got that freedom to get into the box or get in around that final third and create or get a shot off and force West Ham into making errors and forcing them out of position. This is why I say West Ham cannot afford to sit deep. As defensively disciplined as we might be, giving someone like a Traore a lot of the ball and allowing them to try and dictate the play does mean that eventually they will force us out of position. I don't want to see this. This guy is fantastic from set pieces in terms of his left-footed delivery and his in-swinging crosses. Equally, he's got a great shot on him and he can ghost into the box. So West Ham can possibly be overloaded in those areas, particularly if Grealish comes central and they create almost like a midfield 3 in front of Rice and Souček. And you see against Liverpool, when we allowed someone like a Liverpool to dominate us in midfield and have a lot of the ball, it became tough for us to compete. We couldn't get out of our own half and in our own third. So you can see the relevance of why West Ham need to push up as a side. I expect us to do so. The criticism of this Villa side, if there is one, is the fact that they're not really willing to get in behind and run from deep. And this is why I don't think West Ham should fear the counter as much as possibly people say they will. We'll get on that by touching on Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins, listen, is the man that we should have signed, to be fair. I don't know why we didn't. Obviously, it was a lot to do with the money. But he is a fantastic player from open play. And I think the criticism of him is he clinical enough? Does he take his chances enough? Probably not, given the amount of chances he has. But what he does for this Villa side in terms of dragging people out of position, his natural movement as well in the box, creating overloads, allowing Villa to maintain the level of press that they do and keeping pressure off their high line is exactly what Watkins is there for. Equally as well, when they're in a low block, he's the man that can run the channel, can force Villa further up the pitch and keep the ball and keep the pressure off them. And it means that they can be competitive in a lot of games. He prefers being off that left-hand side, to be honest. And when he played for Brentford, he was much more dangerous coming in off the left and coming into his right. At Aston Villa, naturally, Grealish is on the left, so he's never going to get that chance. And you've got Barkley with that tendency to come off the left as well. So Watkins is adapting, I guess, as a number 9. He can keep the ball very, very well. His danger is in the air. Now, I know it was a bit unlucky, and fortunately for us, listen, he didn't get that goal from that header. He probably should have done, but it did cause us problems. I think the encouraging thing about this generally is the fact that West Ham as a back four have adapted and improved in terms of when to step off and in terms of when to deal with the movement. That is hugely important against somebody like an Ollie Watkins. You don't want to give him too many chances in the air. In the ground, he'll come a bit deep and try and pick up the ball. And I think whilst that's good for Aston Villa to maintain their press and maintain possession, it's better for us. A man that's not willing to run from deep and in behind, and Villa really have to get that ball right in the final third, in the wide area, for someone like Ollie Watkins to commit into the box. And that's where West Ham want it. Now, we have to be disciplined. If you can employ someone like a Bowen or a Fornals and push back their fullbacks a little bit further, Villa can't get into those positions. They can't commit someone like an Ollie Watkins into the box. It's exactly what West Ham need to do in this game. It's not being defensive-minded, but it's being aggressive in the press and understanding that if West Ham can force Villa back, they can't hurt us nearly as much as other teams. They're not a fantastic transition. They're not fantastic in transition. They can run from deep. Watkins can obviously stretch the play. Grealish has got an underrated amount of pace about him. Traore can run with the ball as well. But they're not going to hurt West Ham in the way that Liverpool can. So again, you have to be wary of it, and you have to think, we need to push forward, and we need to introduce the fullbacks, and we need to break their defensive line. And naturally, of course, West Ham will have a lot of the ball. What's so interesting about this Villa team is if they don't have possession, they will revert to a low block. And it does mean that if they're not willing to compete and press in the midfield, really man for man, then West Ham can dominate the midfield when we introduce our 4-2-3-1. So we do employ it slightly differently to them. But if we can impress ourselves upon them, there's no reason why we can't dominate the ball and start to create chances. Now, into my patient brother. Sorry, just having a look at the comments. Let's get into the West Ham predicted 11, the one you've all been waiting for. Let me know in the comments who you think will start. I think it's probably quite clear who's going to start for West Ham tonight. Lucas Fabianski in goal. Yeah, look, needless to say, mate, he's a fantastic keeper. I think it will be slightly easier for him tonight. I don't want to speak too soon. I just think in terms of those players and those willing runners to break the lines, I'm not convinced we're going to see it. Again, he needs a lot of protection from his back four. The two fullbacks need a lot of protection from Bowen and Fornal. So again, I think if West Ham are disciplined in terms of our defensive shape, Fabianski isn't really going to get troubled too much unless it's from outside the box, unless it's from a Jack Grealish, who, to be fair, when he scored against us, it was a good goal. There wasn't too much West Ham could do it or Fabianski could do about it. So we have to be wary of that. I think it's a more comfortable game for Fabianski, if I'm perfectly honest. It never is easy. I'm scared for today. Don't be scared, my friend. Don't be scared. I think we'll be all right. We just have to be a bit aggressive. So Fabianski in goal. Right back, no questions here either. Let's go Vladimir Coufal, of course. This is such a difficult game for Vladimir Coufal, and I think we'll see the best of Coufal as opposed to the worst. I don't think we've seen his worst side at all. I think he's been incredibly consistent for West Ham this season. 1-to-1, he's phenomenal. I think his stats in that regard are one of the top in the league. The problem is with someone like Coufal down that right is the amount of men that Villa will commit. When Barkley comes off to that left-hand side, when Grealish comes off to that left-hand side, pushes him down the wing. Again, if Grealish can get in behind and beat somebody like a Jarrod Bowen who's pressing up on him, then Coufal has got an issue. And Coufal cannot afford to let Grealish to get to that byline and get a cross in. You see against Southampton, that chance for Ross Barkley, again, that's how they created it. That's how they stretch defences. They're not necessarily going to run from deep. They want to break the lines in the wide areas and then create overloads in the box. So Coufal has to do a job on Jack Grealish, which is easier said than done. Force him into those central areas. And then you think that naturally with a double pivot in there, we should be able to nullify Grealish. Easier said than done. We can't afford to give that guy too much space at all. Do you think you'll get Lingard will get a run out today? Possibly last 20, I reckon. Benrahma masterclass. Let's hope. So it is interesting. He does need a bit of protection here. I would like to see Coufal more in a back four, when we're in a defensive shape. When we're going forward, though, I think we need to commit Coufal forward, particularly down that left-hand side for Aston Villa, because Grealish's work rate isn't going to be fantastic, to be fair, in the defensive shape. He will get back. It won't be as good as I think El Ghazi has been in previous weeks. So when you look at that left-hand side, Target, yes, he's the better defensively than Matty Cash, but West Ham have got to commit men forward. The block of Aston Villa is very central and it's very narrow, and they allow width for other teams to go and attack them. So I want someone like a Coufal to push up and Cresswell to push up, because it could be West Ham's chances to break their lines and commit men in Souček and Antonio and Benrahma, possibly pulling out the two defensive midfielders in their shape. So we have to push forward. Coufal is integral. Past couple of weeks I've said, look, he has to sit a bit deeper and he has to keep within his shape. But in this game, he has to keep in his shape and be protected a lot by Bowen down that right-hand side. But he has to be forced forward and he has to try and create something for West Ham. Now, in the centre-back positions, again, needless to say, right-hand side will be Craig Dawson. Now, I actually think, despite being incredibly critical of him when he signed and even when he come on for West Ham, that of course naturally his form has been fantastic for us. In the air, he's brilliant. He's looking more composed on the ball in each game I see him. His relationship with Angelo Ogbonna is improving. I think they've got an understanding there defensively when to sit back. Their shape and how narrow they are is very, very good for a low block. So they are improving in that regard. Again, like I say, we don't want to allow somebody like an Ollie Watkins to drift off to the left-hand side and put someone like a Dawson under pressure. And naturally, I think if West Ham can force back Aston Villa's fullbacks, we won't see Watkins trying to advance or play on the shoulder as much. We want to force him into the deepest positions as possible. And we can only really achieve that for a really good shape. Live build-up show without any guests. Yeah. Shut up, man. Look, I forgot to do it, all right? Look, let me just get it done. So at the end of the day, we've got to stop. We've got to take the pressure off somebody like a Craig Dawson, to be honest. I think we will do it. We have to do it in terms of the protection. Declan Rice will offer that protection. I'm worried about Barkley coming off to that left. If he does, possibly draws him out of position. Like I say, this West Ham back four has to be, when we're in a defensive shape, when we're in a low block, very, very disciplined. So I hope to see that in this game. I think we will do. I think the relationship between Ogbonna and Dawson has improved. I think it's better than Balbuena. And as much as I thought Balbuena was doing well for us, he's not as aggressive in trying to win the ball. And I think Craig Dawson, when he does go for the ball, he inevitably wins it. Takes a bit of the man, but he does win it. Centre back on the left-hand side will be Angelo Ogbonna. Now, Oggy, again, it's a very, very similar task. The interesting thing for me with Angelo Ogbonna will be the fact that they'll progress someone like a Bertrand Traore and the pressure that I think Aston Villa will put on West Ham, particularly down that left-hand side. Now, like I've said, we need to keep that shape. And if you introduce someone like a Traore almost as a secondary striker, again, it gives someone for West Ham to deal with. And it really comes down to how well Fornals presses and pushes up against the Matty Cash. Because if a Matty Cash is able to get to the byline or get deliveries in from the edge of the box, then naturally I think we'll be forced out of position. And Ogbonna could be done in terms of the shape. Naturally, he's very good in terms of his shape. He's very good one-to-one. We do need the protection from the two centre defensive midfielders in Rice and Souček. So you'd hope that he doesn't get to that point. I think aerially, I think Dawson and Ogbonna together are fantastic. I think we'll nullify them in terms of their crosses into the box. Again, you don't, like I say, you don't want to give Aston Villa too many chances in this game because it will come from a Grealish free kick or it will come from a set piece or something like that. We cannot afford to give them too many chances in behind. And you think that Ogbonna, Dawson, their relationship is very, very good. I think we'll be okay in that sense. But the left-back position, I've kind of alluded to it before, is Aaron Cresswell's. And I think it could be a weak spot. And I don't want to dig Aaron Cresswell out because he's had a really, really good season. And I think we're going to need him going forward, to be honest. But in terms of what Villa will push forward on West Ham, and you worry about Matty Cash, if Fornals in terms of positioning, and it is a bit of an odd dilemma. I think the similarity between Villa and West Ham is the way that we use our attacking wide midfielders and in terms of the defensive duties that are implied upon them. And whoever wins that battle will win this game. And you do not want someone like an Aaron Cresswell to be exploited with a Matty Cash making that overlapping run and Traore because it's giving him too many questions. Does he go out and press Traore or does he try and sit off and he allows Matty Cash to create an overlap on him? So again, we are going to need Fornals down that left-hand side. We are going to need him for the work rate. Again, it is about protection for this back four. I thought their shape generally against Liverpool was okay. I didn't think it was too bad, to be honest. I think Cresswell did get caught out for that first goal because he went to go and press. And that's exactly the type of scenario that I'd be concerned about. Don't go out and press somebody like a Traore. Don't go out and press someone like a Barkley. You give them too much of the ball, then Watkins will exploit inevitably. A couple of people saying that they've got a bad feeling about tonight. Come on, people. Just drop the like on the stream and it'll be all right. Don't worry. We've got loads more to get through. Centre defensive midfield, no surprises there either. It'll be an interesting game for them. I've spoke about the midfield battle and I'll talk about it a little bit in the tactical breakdown. Let's start off with the right-hand side. It will be, obviously, Declan Rice. Tough game. It'll be a tough game for Declan. I think there is an opportunity with both of our centre midfielders here to try and transition from those deep areas. We know the athleticism that they've got, and I think they can do it and break with the ball. And they're really decent at ball carriers. I think Declan Rice as well was shown this season. His composure on the ball, his ability to drive with it could be the difference in this game. Obviously, I mentioned Douglas Luiz is a little bit more conservative in this 4-2-3-1. McGinn will press up a little bit high. But you feel that if West Ham can win the ball, even in those deep areas, and try and beat somebody like a McGinn, in that number 8 role, then we'll progress. We'll force the team up. But again, it doesn't work if you only progress someone like a Declan Rice forward and the team don't push as a whole. We're going to have to be incredibly intense in how we press up, particularly with the line, and get out of those positions very, very quickly. Defensively, again, he'll be under some serious pressure. Like I've said, Ollie Watkins dropping deep, Barkley on the left-hand side, Grealish coming in central. If they push up their fullbacks, it will become a nightmare. The only benefit in terms of this team is the fact that Villa won't really progress in beyond. They could keep a lot of the ball, they could keep a lot of the press, but ultimately I think if West Ham can keep them in front of that defence, we should be nearly all right. But again, from a transitional point of view, I think we need Declan Rice in this game and we need Tommy Souček in this game. I think Tommy Souček from an offensive standpoint in terms of getting in the box will be massively important. Back to winning ways tonight. Let's hope so, my friend. Let's get it in. I do believe actually we can get a result tonight. I know that sounds a little bit overconfident, but I do think we can get something from this game if we play it right. Tommy Souček on the left-hand side. Again, we speak about the defensive work rate and the ability to protect them. That is crucial. And like I've said before, I think Fornals will be the man here to protect Cresswell from getting forced out too wide, and someone like a Traore, who won't necessarily get him beyond, but will get ball in and around that box. Now, I think Souček and his ability to run with the ball, to break out, his physical presence, if he can win it off Traoré, will force Aston Villa back, break them in transition, and exploit the fact that they will push up their attacking midfielders and their defensive line. They will have space between that. So West Ham have got space to run into and commit runners forward and ultimately try and push that line a little bit higher. Offensively, and I'll talk about it in the tactical breakdown, he's going to have to break that line when West Ham have the ball and we've got the fullbacks pushing on. The reason is Villa will struggle with overloads into the box. Very, very similar to us. If you put a team under enough pressure and there are enough bodies in there, naturally a chance will fall to one of them. So I would like to see somebody like a Souček commit himself forward. We know he's fantastic in terms of his finishing, in terms of his heading, and push this Villa defence out of position. The problem is when you have a narrow back four, you cannot afford just to play the ball around. I think sometimes earlier in the season, when we've come up against low block teams, we play the ball side to side, but we've never really tried to get in beyond. I think we'll get the chance in this game because of the amount of width they'll concede. And if we do so, we've got to put Souček forward. Get Souček forward, get Jared Bowen coming in an averted position, Mikel Antonio running in. We will get chances in this game. And even if we can get a set piece off that, again, we are massively strong from set pieces. So, attacking midfield. I think it'll be this. Fornals on the left-hand side, naturally. I've touched on it. The work rate of Pablo Fornals is huge in this game. Sometimes I'm critical of him because he doesn't have the pace to hurt teams in transition. But equally, for a left-sided attacking midfielder, his defensive work rate is absolutely superb. I think in terms of dealing with Matty Cash, he's going to have to really do a bit of a job on him, push up on him, prevent him from getting into this West Ham box. Inverted runs, overlapping runs. He's going to have to protect Aaron Creswell a lot in this game. In an attacking sense, I'm not really too sure how Pablo Fornals is going to affect the play. I think it's a very territorial game. It's a game of pressing and dominating possession at times. And I don't feel like Fornals is really going to get into it. It could be one of them games where people say they're critical of him in terms of how he affects the game, but you cannot go without this guy's work rate. And I think down that left-hand side, he's absolutely pivotal. In terms of the number 10, despite Lingard joining, obviously I think it will be Said Benrahma to start in the 10 role. Look, he didn't get on the ball much, did he, against Liverpool? Not nearly enough as to create anything. And to be fair, it was a tough game for him. Against Aston Villa, in a defensive shape, I think he's purely there for transition. I think he's purely there to link up with Mikel Antonio. I would like to think that his work rate that he's displayed in the last couple of games will put pressure on a John McGinn, possibly create turnovers and possibly push West Ham out of that low block at times. I think in terms of his offensive ability, we know his qualities technically. I think he can do a real job in breaking down a low block. Now, I'll touch on it in a tactical breakdown. I'm not going to give too much detail now, but the way that Villa will allow one pivot to sit and obviously get McGinn to press does mean that if West Ham commit men forward in the midfield and create an overload, they will get exploited out of position and it will ask questions of their back four. That is the way that most teams try to draw teams out of that low block. Benrahma's got the ability to do that. Equally, I think that if West Ham are under a lot of pressure, his ball retention's fantastic. We could rely on that massively in this game at times. It will allow us to force up a little bit, give us time to push the fullbacks up, and we can start to transition on Villa. Whether we can do it quick enough, I'm not sure, but certainly he's got that ability to do so. Right-hand side, Jared Bowen. No surprises there either. Again, this team is very, very similar to the one that played against Liverpool. Defensively, you need him. I think defensively he's absolutely superb. And offensively, we need him in that box. We need the width to be created from Soufal. There's absolutely, as good as Jared Bowen is, isolating him on that left-hand side. Target's very, very good one-to-one. Grealish will try and get back at times. Allowing Villa to have men behind the ball and isolating Bowen will not work. And I think we do need to commit Soufal forward. And we need Bowen really as a secondary striker at times in this game when we break that line. And I do feel like Bowen's got that ability to get in the box. You saw it in the last game. The header that he had is fantastic. For such a small man, it's a very, very good goal. His heading ability is very good. His finishing ability generally is very good. His position in the box this season says that he should have more goals than he does. Is he decisive enough sometimes? No. But I don't think it's going to be that type of game. I think Bowen's attacking qualities, his finishing, will be in full effect. But in general, just in terms of when we've got the ball in their third, it's the commitment to go and get beyond. And you feel like Jared Bowen's pace, his directness, he can beat a man, will cause them problems down that right-hand side. And if we do break on the left-hand side, equally, he will get into the box and he will have support alongside Mikel Antonio and hopefully Tommy Souček. Couple of questions kicking around. Does Antonio start? Well, of course he does, doesn't he? Let's be honest. He'll start up front. He's pivotal to the way we play. We didn't really see him too much in the last game. I didn't think he looked fully fit, if I'm honest. He looked a little bit sluggish. I don't know whether it's because of this hamstring injury, whether he's been a little bit hesitant in terms of whether to chase and running behind. But he did get 2 goals against Burnley and West Brom. He is crucial from that perspective. his role really, I would like to see him sit on that last line of the back four, because in the previous games against low block sides, he has got in behind and he has managed to get a flick on or a chance. Yes, he misses a fair bit of chances, particularly against Palace. We do all remember that, not very fondly, but I know we got the win in the end. But certainly, Antonio in an offensive mindset needs to be able to break the line. And I think he can do. I don't want to see Mickey Antonio in terms of his hold-up play unless we're in a low block and we're trying to retain possession for a little bit. And we need his pace and we need his directness to get him beyond. There is absolutely no point in Antonio playing in hold-up. It will allow Villa to get men back. They'll sit behind the ball and they'll be massively comfortable with it. It won't benefit West Ham and we won't be able to find a man in beyond. So again, there is that element to it. You also look at the right-hand side as well in terms of isolating Cash. Will Kings be playing? No. Will Lings be playing? No. Benny's much better on the left. I agree. Depends on what game it is, but we'll need Fornals' work rate. Yeah, so ultimately, with someone like Antonio, I think he can exploit the space that Matty Cash will leave. Again, it's about the quickness and the decisiveness of how West Ham get out of that position and how quality the ball is from Ben Rama. Ben Rama really, even as a 10 in this sort of team and the way we'll play, he needs to be decisive and we need to see his quality in terms of that final pass. I think we could see it today, possibly. But Mickey has got that tendency to come off to the left-hand side. If he's got that pace about him, which I think he's struggling a little bit, to be honest, at the moment, always hesitant to do any injury or exert himself too much, then I think we can break that line and get beyond. And then I'll be interested to see. Then it's a case of, if we do get in beyond, how many do we commit forward? I think this is a game for Moyes to let that handbrake off at times, because I don't think Villa can hurt us as much in deep areas as we think they can. I think it needs to be a game very, very similar to Crystal Palace, where we're intense in pressing, we dominate the territory, we push forward, we push ourselves and try and latch onto mistakes and things like that. Again, deliveries are massively important in terms of using the width. There's so many. West Ham have a better chance of winning this game if we take more risks, and not even individual risks as a team in terms of the strategy. If Moyes sits behind the ball against Villa, you're allowing them for 90 minutes to possibly create something. We have to be on the front foot. Yeah, 100%, my friend. So that's the West Ham predicted 11 from my perspective. I'm going to quickly plug in my charger. So drop a like very, very quickly before we get into the tactical breakdown. Tactical breakdown. Now, I know I didn't do it this week. Very similar. I've got a horrible tendency of going on too long. And it'll be very, very similar to everything that I've said here. But let's get into it. Let's get into the tactical breakdown. If Antonio gets injured, we're screwed. Yes, we are. Let's hope that never happens. Right, let's talk about Villa in their defence. They're in their normal shape. Like I said, 4-2-3-1. They try and narrow. Well, particularly Target will look to narrow to create a back three at times. Matty Cash will push forward, particularly on that right-hand side. But what I've noted, more importantly than anything, is the fluidity of that number 10 role. And that's why I think possibly West Ham, in terms of breaking in transition, might have a bit more joy, because the likes of Barkley, when it was just Grealish in the 10 role, that's fine. You can allow one player to have a little bit of freedom. You allow Barkley to have freedom as well. He's not really involved in the press. He's not really involved in the defensive shape. He'll act as a secondary press at times. It's easier for West Ham to try and dominate that midfield a little bit more. It does make sense from a pressing aspect. Barkley's free, can maintain possession, can force Villa further up the pitch. I understand it, but I think if West Ham can break that and we get onto Barkley and Grealish and we win the ball, then again they're going to struggle, because they're going to commit men forward, and West Ham will have space to run into. The trap naturally is that if Villa break that and counter press, the spacing behind for Barkley to pick up the ball will cause us issues. In possession, as we see, like I've said, Target will create a narrow back three. You've got Cash moving up as well. The possibility of an overlap or an inverted run. Traore coming central to support Barkley. Grealish also having the ability to do so. The worrying thing for me in possession will be the link up between Barkley and Grealish. Because equally, the fact that they can play in behind each other, they've got a good relationship. The fact that Grealish is willing to get to that byline and get in beyond is a problem. Will force West Ham out of position. Listen, in a high line, it's going to be very, very difficult for Villa to do that because of their emphasis on that defensive shape. If you give them too much of the ball, this will naturally happen. Then it will be up to West Ham to be a little bit more disciplined, and for Dawson and the likes of Ogbonna to stay in their position and allow the two pivots to deal with that. It's just such a tricky game, but in a way, it's quite an easy one, because Villa are very pragmatic. They'll commit and they'll push and they'll press, and then they'll sit in a low block. They won't play a full press the whole time. They won't have multiple avenues to hurt West Ham. So again, like you see, there is also a tendency naturally for Cash to be exploited down that right-hand side if he pushes too far forward. The problem is, naturally, the further forward Villa can press and the more they can keep hold of the ball, the further Cash will look to get in beyond or create an inverted run, or create a delivery. Traore comes in as a second striker. You see that these are the type of problems that West Ham have to avoid. We cannot allow them to have too much of the ball because you're allowing them to dictate the play. And in most games, I sit there and say, well, look, we can hit a low block and we can hit them in transition. I'm not convinced we can in this game. We cannot do it for 90 minutes. Absolutely not. There's too many avenues for West Ham to try and actually beat Aston Villa that it would be a little bit negative to allow them to dominate possession. Final third, very, very similar to what I've said. Again, you'll see Target a little bit more reserved down that left-hand side because you've got the link-up of Barkley and Grealish. Equally, Grealish has got the ability to cut inside onto his right and go to the byline, draw and get him behind the lines and get crosses in. You see Traore as well, interestingly, can act as a second striker alongside Ollie Watkins. That's how they create overloads. That's how they can get chances and force West Ham out of position. Cash down the right, as we know, he's willing to come in a little bit inverted. He can hit the byline as well and get a cross in. And you'll see John McGinn there, even though I haven't labelled him, just behind Barkley, maintaining that level of press. And the problem is with McGinn is he's very, very athletic. He'll keep the ball, he'll push on, and he's tenacious in winning it. And it does mean that West Ham at times could be pinned back. That's why I say when West Ham have the opportunity to go and break out, we absolutely have to go and press them and get out of our shape, because if you allow Villa to have too much of the ball, they will introduce the fullbacks or they'll introduce Grealish, and then all of a sudden you're waiting for them to create chances, and that's not how you can do it. Now, what encouraged me more than anything in terms of research, in terms of watching Aston Villa, was the way that they have to get back in this defensive shape. Yes, they play a high line, so naturally they are a little bit conservative when they don't have the ball, but this is a very intense low block. The back four naturally narrow, that's fine. The two wide attacking midfield players will cut in as well. They'll completely concede width, which is really, really interesting. They're happy to create a narrow block. It smacks of a little bit of a JT coaching session. It doesn't mean it's going to be difficult for West Ham to play through the lines. We'll have to use the width in order to get behind. And of course, naturally, because they've got bodies in central areas, they can transition from those. And if teams press up high, they can commit numbers forward, and the transition is more effective, which I do understand. But ultimately, you've got John McGinn and Louise as well, and their commitment into be able to, one of them to sit as a pivot and one of them to sort of screen in front of that back four and give them a little bit of protection. But their work rate off the ball in a defensive position is why Villa at times can be so hard to break down. They're more than happy to try and latch on where people commit numbers forward. A Souček, as we'll probably see tonight, McGinn will track and they'll almost create a six-man low block. Again, that's why it's difficult for West Ham to try and get on the ball and not try and get in behind. And yes, they may concede a little bit of space in terms of getting shots off from the edge of the box. That's the ideal situation. If we can get something from range, perfect. But we haven't really seen that this season. So again, the problem is how quickly Villa can get back into that shape. They've got an athletic midfield. Douglas Luiz as well will look to sit in between the lines. Equally, if it's on the left-hand side, he'll come into the back four. McGinn will sit a bit central. Their defensive shape between them, despite McGinn playing as an 8, is what protects Aston Villa so much. Obviously, the weakness in that shape is the fact that Jack Grealish is on the left-hand side. Now, again, how much work rate Jack Grealish has and how much he'll allow Target to be exploited, I'm not sure. But you would look at it from a West Ham perspective and say, if you can put forward Bowen, naturally will play a bit inverted, and Soufal to make an overlap, then you can break him out of position quite easily. And Grealish is a type of player, and the way that Dean Smith values him, that he will give him the freedom to pick the ball up in central areas because he knows he's a good enough player to keep hold of that ball and force Villa further up the pitch. So you'd like to see West Ham test them in wide areas, 100%. The low block is very, very interesting. They're a high energy team. To play like this for 90 minutes is a lot of energy is needed. But in that 4-2-3-1, it does suit them, and their ability to counter, their ability to sit, and their ability to deal with runners in behind, because they were getting caught off in that 4-3-3 a little bit too much. Villa were very lucky last week. Big Craig Screamer, did you say? Yeah, let's hope so, mate. Southampton completely played. And that's what I said, mate, though. When Southampton dominated the ball and they dominated possession, Villa couldn't get out. And that's the type of thing that West Ham needs to be looking at and saying, yes, of course they can hurt you. Can't hurt you from deep areas as much as maybe you think. Let's get on to West Ham. How can West Ham defend and how can we attack against Aston Villa in order to get a result this evening? Let's look at the defensive side of things. It's problematic. To say the least, it's absolutely problematic. If Villa can get possession in that final third, they'll push on West Ham incredibly high. We'll need someone like a Jared Bowen and a Fornals to press up against them, force them back a little bit, and stop them creating overloads in the central areas. The problems, as I've mentioned, if Soufal gets drawn out, if Bowen doesn't give him enough protection, possibly if West Ham are in the press and we get hit on transition, Maybe if Villa can commit too many forward, then they will create a real clear-cut chance. But I didn't feel like they created too many clear-cut chances against West Ham last time. I thought defensively we were very good. Our shape's good. Our back four in terms of dealing with that press and sitting off them at times has improved. So we are a different side. We're an improved side. Interestingly enough, you'll see the two blue markers furthest forward, Benrahma and Mikel Antonio. And again, it will feel at times very, very similar to that Liverpool game when Villa are in our final third. And it will depend on if West Ham can break out from that. Can we get it into Antonio? Can we get it into Benrahma? Struggling Burnley put 3 past them. Exactly, mate. There's no reason why we should be scared of them. So again, in transition, you have to rely on Mikel Antonio. Possibly he does beat that back three, but the thing is they're not playing as high a line and they're not committing both fullbacks forward as Southampton do. So again, they have a bit of protection there. Douglas Luiz will sit in front of that back three at times when they come in a little bit central. So even if Mickey breaks on it, it's only really an opportunity to force West Ham further up the pitch because realistically, Mickey's not going to break from those areas and get a chance on target in the way that we did against Palace at times. So it'll be tougher. It will give us a bit of an outlet, to be fair. We could use Mickey in terms of stretching the play and forcing them back. That's something that I would like West Ham to employ in this game. Whether we see it or not too many times, I'm not sure. Depends on how positive we are going forward. But we have to use Mickey as the outlet. If he goes forward, commit men forward and push their press back on Aston Villa because they'll have to get back into that shape very, very quickly. In an attacking sense, like I've said and I've touched on quite a few times, you would have heard it a lot in this video, the fullbacks. The fullbacks are absolutely crucial in this game. They will concede width. We push on them and we get hold of the ball and we press our midfield up to theirs, they will allow the width because they feel like they can defend better in a low block by allowing crosses to come into the box, but they struggle sometimes with those deliveries. Now, West Ham aren't going to break down that low block of Aston Villa. As much as I'd like to sit here and say we can play between the lines, and there was an improvement in terms of when you see against Palace, Declan trying to play into Antonio, we weren't really playing in between the lines and getting in beyond. We don't have really, I know Benrahma's got quality, but we don't play almost allowing a 10 to get on the ball and the striker to play on the shoulder. And I'm not sure we're going to see that too much. And I think that's why Mickey's position in this game is also quite crucial. Whether if he decides to sit off and come a bit deeper, it's not going to suit us. It's not going to stretch Aston Villa. It's going to mean that they're going to be comfortable in that shape. But equally, if he's willing to sit on the shoulder a little bit, and there's got people going in beyond him, possibly a Thomas Souček. If Benrahma as well can commit as well, that's fantastic. It'll break that line a little bit more. And West Ham can get him beyond and create a chance. But the problem is they'll get back into that shape very, very quickly. They'll absolutely do so. They press high and they sit deep. And that's such a hard team to break down. That's why people give them so much credit this season because of how competent they are at playing both. The change to the 4-2-3-1's allowed them to do it. They've got a little bit more security. Equally, they're not committing too many men forward either. So the overload isn't oppressive. The only thing I'd say from a neutral standpoint to a degree is the fact that they won't get men in beyond unless they get into the final third. So they're a conservative team. They're a pragmatic team. I've highlighted it as well. I'm not sure how many times we'll see this in this game, but Tommy Souček, I think we've got enough defensively in a high line. And I don't think they can hurt us enough to commit Thomas Souček to break those lines with Mikel Antonio. Bowen to come central, break the line as well. That has to be a priority. I don't think we can sit there and allow Villa to get into shape and play the ball around and try and keep possession and not do it quickly enough and decisively enough because ultimately Villa will be more than comfortable. They can't hurt us really from deep areas. They will commit men forward. They are set up to do that. But you feel like Declan Rice is more than enough of a pivot to give a bit of protection for Ogbonna and Craig Dawson to stop that type of threat. So I hope to see that. I hope to see West Ham be a lot more optimistic in this game. I think we will be. But again, there's no reason why we should fear them, to be honest. I hope we do better on our set play. Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. I hope we do. It'll be interesting to see that battle. I think from open play, it's a battle of territory. Teams that play with such high energy in terms of West Ham do commit men forward when we press. We do sit men back as well when we defend. So we're very, very similar in certain aspects. Whoever wins this game will be, it feels like whoever wants to dominate the territory more. If West Ham can do, I think we've probably got men that are willing to get in beyond more so than Villa. I think you look at Villa's team, attacking midfielders, Traore, Barkley, they're willing to sit in those number 10 roles and try and create something. Whereas we've got the likes of Thomas Souček. You introduced the two fullbacks as well. Mikel Antonio can sit on the shoulder. I think we've got players that naturally want to get in beyond. But the worst thing that could be if Villa force us into deep areas and we're just sitting around and we're keeping possession, but we're not creating anything. We have to try, use the width, break them apart regularly, and particularly when we're in defensive shape, press up. And the more we press up against Aston Villa in transition, the less so we'll see them try and hurt us, because they will be forced into deep areas. Watkins, Grealish won't be able to get on the ball as much. You'll be in that defensive shape. Traore also has defensive attributes as well in terms of protecting Matty Cash, given his tendency to get so far forward. So there are things that West Ham can definitely look at and definitely look to exploit. But that is the tactical breakdown. That is the predicted 11. I've managed to get it done in 45 minutes, which is impressive. Normally it ends up to be around a couple of hours or so, it feels like. Let me know in the comments as well before I go. Thoughts on tonight? I think it's going to be a good battle between Antonio and Mings. Yeah, I agree, mate. I think it'll be interesting to see that, particularly in transition as well, if we can get in beyond. Score predictions, go on. Flood the chat. What's the predictions for tonight? Best thing we can do is... yeah. That would be one way, mate. That would be one way. Darren... Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, actually. Grealish is temperament. He's temperament. He can get annoyed. He does get annoyed. But that's what West Ham needs to do. I think, the reason why he got that goal last time is because we gave him the ball. And we let him go into those midfield areas and we let him get in the ball and he hurt us. And I think if you force him into those deep areas, he gets a bit of a free pass, but he has to do his defensive duty. If he doesn't, he'll get frustrated. I just watched Aston Villa Burnley in December. Again, similar situation. Frustrated, couldn't create, couldn't break them down. 3-1 West Ham. I'd love that. I'd absolutely love it. 2-0 West Ham. Again, I like to see the positivity before. Am I the only one thinking our passing was really poor? Yeah, we weren't effective enough, 100%, Peter. We weren't effective enough. We should have definitely tried to keep hold of that ball. A couple of times, I think Antonio, the pass to him wasn't good enough, and he could have had a clear run on goal. Dawson did it to Zaha. Yeah, 100%, my friend. Hope Dawson mistakes Grealish's head for the ball. A lot of Grealish hate. I get it, man. He was doing my head in as well last time. 9-0. Look at the positivity. You never know. You never know. I massively doubt it, mate. Probably don't put a bet on it. Many things were poor, Peter. Yeah, exactly, man. What's Dennis said here? Someone said 3-0. I've got the U-boat captain in my FPL team. Yeah, look, it's gonna be interesting. Everyone smash a like as well before we wrap things up. There's a watch along tonight at 7:45, so join us there as well. All the numbers are coming in now. Now I'm gonna wrap it up. 5-4 with Antonio refusing to play. Yes, I watched that Brentford game yesterday. Yeah, okay, that's a great game as well, my friend. I'm sure we'll discuss it later. 2-1 West Ham. Lineker thinks Grealish should get the player in the season. Do you know what? Grealish is a good player, right? And the thing that frustrates me about Jack Grealish is there's no real need for him to do it. There's no real need for him to do it. Zaha, in my opinion, is someone that gets frustrated and looks for the contact. Salah's very much the same, but Jack Grealish actually actively holds the ball and waits for the challenge. And that's why he's so annoying, because he slows the play down so much that you have to go and press him. I think some people are scared of pressing Jack Grealish because he'll try and win the ball and he'll get a free kick and then it breaks down the play. So he needs to cut that out of the game. Be careful of breathing near Grealish. 2-2. Yeah, it'll be a tough one. Look, by all means, it's not going to be an easy game. I know I've sat there and said I think West Ham can win it. I think we can if we play a certain game plan. Whether or not we'll do that, it is massively sketchy because of the way it goes. But listen, I'm hopeful. I'm definitely hopeful. I'm trying to sort of just keep this one going because there's decent viewership. Like it now. Stop what you're doing. Just like it. It's free. Just like the video, please. I really appreciate it. And when you get to 7:45 tonight, you head over to the West Ham way for, of course, the watch along. Zaha's done his hamstring, lovely stuff. Salah and Grealish are very good players. They just don't play respectable football. Yeah. Mark touches on it, and I've said it. Again, we have to push up. We have to push up 100%. Cheers, Peach, my friend. Yeah, we have to push up. No conservatism. Listen, I gave it a little bit of a free pass. I got some stick for it for being too nice to West Ham on Sunday. We have to push up against this. It's got to be a very, very similar performance to the Crystal Palace game. Push up, press up. They'll have to be forced back. They're not going to counter press on us. They aren't as press resistant as Liverpool were. They don't have players like Thiago that can keep the ball and beat the press. As good as McGinn are and as good as Douglas Luiz is, we'll force them back. Dean Smith wants them to play in those defensive positions 100%, but we just got to take that. We just got to take that risk. It's not even really a risk. It's just a game plan. It's just a level of intensity that you'd hope West Ham have. I know it's been a really, really short turnaround, but we definitely need this for the 90 minutes. If we sit deep around the 60, 70th minute mark, we're going to be problematic. No conservatism. You've been talking too long. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, listen. I didn't mean to do this show. I didn't forget. I've been really, really busy, and I wanted to obviously give you something in terms of predicted 11 and tactical breakdown. So if you are watching the replay and you're eating your dinner and you're waiting for the game to come on, just give it a watch, give it a like as well. Fingers crossed we get the win tonight. Listen, for me, a draw is a good result. For me, a draw is a good result. Again, it depends on the performances. It depends on how we play. I'd like to see us go for it. If we get a draw, I'm happy with it. I think it just keeps the momentum. I know we lost against Liverpool, but generally speaking, in terms of our competitiveness and our consistency against sides around us, it is crucial. The Fulham and Sheffield United game, for me, are must-wins. The problem is now they're coming into the game with a bit of form. Sheffield United won, Fulham won, or drew even, and they're in decent form. We have to really get those 3 points, the 6 points from both those games, because we've got Spurs, which I'm hopeful, the way they're playing, we can do a job on them. But then we've got Manchester City, then we've got Arsenal and Wolves are trying to get back into form as well. So there's a lot of teams out there that I think I wouldn't want to see our season come to a little bit of a halt because we haven't picked up the points against the teams we should have done. I am quite relaxed about this season generally. The fact that, yes, Chris, liked it. It's what I want to see. All you need to do it. It's probably like half of you disliked it now, but because it's so annoying for me to keep saying it. But yeah, no, definitely. Look, we need to get results from teams like Aston Villa that I feel we can beat. We need to beat Fulham. We need to beat Sheffield United. We can beat Tottenham. It'll be a completely different game. Fulham 1-0 down to Leicester. Yeah, brilliant. And then Man City's and the likes of that, it'll be tougher. It'll be much tougher. We've got Manchester United in the Cup as well next week, so there'll be watch-alongs and predicted 11s and tactical breakdowns for that. Hopefully, I can get an opposition match reaction for it. I'll see if Goldbridge isn't too busy. Make no mistake, this Villa game will be more informative than the Liverpool both teams. Yeah. It'll be more competitive, Paul, won't it? It'll be a much closer game than what that was. Listen, I know we were all disappointed about the Liverpool game. We were coming off of a decent winning streak. It's frustrating. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I want West Ham to be able to compete, but I think they were too good at times. We didn't compete enough in the midfield, to be honest. We didn't commit enough men forward to win that game. And I think Moisey does have that in his locker, to be honest. I think he does have that sort of, he looks at it and says, I'll take a loss or I'll be negative against the team. And you'd hope that if he was going to play like that against Liverpool, it does mean that he's going to go for it in terms of intensity tonight. That's 100% of the performance I'd like to see. But I'm hungry. I've got to get my dinner. I've got to get sorted. We're going to have the watch along 7:45 as well. Make sure you're there. Thank you everyone for liking. Whatever. My words are gone. Thank you all for commenting as well. I really, really appreciate it. 70 people in the chat. It's really, really impressive. Nonetheless, you're going to have your watch along, as I've said, 7:45 tonight. You get your post-match reaction from me. I'm doing an opposition match reaction. I'll probably be up till 2:00 tomorrow morning trying to do all of this. And then we'll get the predicted 11s out and the tactical breakdowns out I promise you, before the Fulham game. So before that, you'll get everything. I'd love to do a fan's voice. I think it's going to be too tight this week. I'm going to have to do it next week. And then the quick turnaround again, you'll get your tactical breakdowns, etc. For the Manchester United game. Loads of stuff going on. Make sure you subscribe to the West Ham Way if you're new. And until about an hour's time, come on, you irons. Let's get this win tonight. I'm absolutely buzzing for it. And I'll see you all later. Take care.